Hello all, welcome to Universal Group of Institutions, Bangalore. Welcome to our series on budget where we are trying to demystify the Union Budget 2025 and 2026. Now, today in this particular video session, we are going to look at the Union Budget from the angle of a subsidy. Okay, so prior to understanding or prior to deep delving into this topic, first we are going to look at a MCQ, multiple choice question, and then we are going to, at the end, we are going to solve this. So, the question is, with reference to the Union Budget 2025-2026, consider the following statement regarding the reduction in a central government subsidy bill. Statement number 1, total subsidy allocation for the financial year 25-26 is lowest since 29-20. Point number 1. Point number 2, the reduction in subsidies is primarily due to discontinuation of additional free food grain allocation under public distribution system and a decrease in a fertilizer subsidy. Statement number 3, fertilizer subsidy have peaked in 2020-21 due to high global prices following the Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Statement number 4, in a relative terms, the subsidy bill for 2025-2026 is at 1.19% of GDP, the lowest since 2018-19. Now, let us start with the class that is the subsidy bill. Now, before we understand, just you need to remember where exactly the Union government's rupee is going. You can see very clearly the bulk of the money, either going through, that is states share of taxes and duties, that is 22%, and the important one happens to be the interest payments. You can clearly understand this servicing of the debt is entailing a great economic cost on the Union government's exchequer, that is 20 paise of Union government is just going towards the interest payment. Apart from that, the bulk of the expenditure happens to be the central sector schemes, that is 16%, defense centrally sponsored, and the finance commission's recommendations, that is all 8%, other transfers. Here, that is the topic in which we are interested for today, is about the major subsidies, which are accounting for nearly 6% of the total expenditure, or 6 paise of the 100 paise. Now look at the things that we are supposed to remember, not exactly, but we are supposed to have the rough idea. You can see here very clearly, here we have 4 sets of data. The set of data that the first happens to be the budgeted estimation for the upcoming financial year. This is BE. And then we have a 24-25 financial year data, as well as that is budgeted data, as well as the revised estimation. And the third set of data that we have is the actual estimation of the previous financial year, that is 23-24. As you can see very clearly, the total expenditure towards the subsidy right now happens to be the 4,26,000. This is less than the revised estimation of current financial year, because we are still in the month of the February, as well as the budgeted estimation of the present financial year, as well as the actual amount that is spent in the previous financial year, that is 23-24. This you must remember very clearly. Even if there is no need to remember the exact data, but just remember the amount of subsidy bill has declined in comparison with these past 3 data. Now, next point that you need to, can you see here very clearly, the largest subsidy that is going towards happens to be the food subsidy. As you are already aware, we have something called as the National Food Security Act, that is right to food is being ensured, where 50% of the urban population is a beneficiary, and another 3/4 of the population of 3/4 of rural population is also the beneficiary. Collectively, nearly 82 crore of the population is beneficiary under this NFSA. Now, government, right after the COVID-19, government came up with something called as the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Under that, all these, because under NFSA, we were distributing rice, wheat and other core cereals at a subsidized price, that is 3 rupees kg, 2 rupees per kg and 1 rupees per kg. Now, what the Union government is doing under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, it is distributing all these at a free of cost. So, the largest chunk of this subsidy that goes towards is the food subsidy, that you need to remember. But that food subsidy is not the, more than 50%, rather that food subsidy happens to be the less than 50%. Remember the next point. Food subsidy accounts for less than 50%. Food and fertilizer subsidy collectively accounts for 87% of the total subsidy. Because what happens is, in an examination hall, the UPSC comes up with the questions, as you are already aware. The food and fertilizer subsidy nearly accounts for 90%. Because if they have used nearly, then it becomes correct. If they have used saying that more than 90%, that becomes wrong. It is more than 85%, yes, because food and fertilizer subsidy accounts for nearly 87% of the total expenditure. Food subsidy expenditure is less than 50%. Then we have the next one, which has seen the drastic decline, that is called as the LPG subsidy. Can you see very clearly the percentage change in 24-25 revised estimation to the 25-26 budgeted estimation, that is 17.7%. Among all, if there is any subsidy bill that has seen the sharpest decline, that happens to be the LPG subsidy. This LPG subsidy accounts for nearly 3% of the total expenditure. These are the rough estimation which you are supposed to be remember, because we have seen in the question paper where UPSC keeps on making statements about the general statements. Okay, so I just have to sum up here. One, the food subsidy is less than 50% of the total subsidy bill. Point number one. The point number two is the food and fertilizer subsidy collectively less than, nearly 87% of the total. And the one that has seen the sharpest decline happens to be the LPG subsidy, that accounts for nearly 3% of the total subsidy bill. Now, if you look at what has happened in the past years, is that, say, right after the COVID-19 pandemic, that is, we have seen the nationwide lockdowns were imposed. The people who are part of the informal sector, they all lost jobs. You have seen people migrating thousands of kilometers to their homeland. When people have lost jobs, source of income, the government has started to ensure the food security. Under that food security, to ensure it, government came up with the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Under that, each family was provided with the free of cost food grain. Along with that, they have also ensured that each family is going to get the additional 5 kg of the food grain as well. So now that additional 5 kg has been removed now. Okay, now only free of cost is being given. As a result of that, the food subsidy has declined because additional procurement has been declined. Can you see here very clearly? One simple stat, that is the grain offtake, that is through the PDS under public distribution system, how it has declined a period of a time. So the government's expenditure has declined. That's the reason you can see there is a sharp decline in the subsidy, food related subsidy. You can see very clearly. So remember, this food subsidy has peaked during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. that is, you know very clearly, the years of the 2020 and 2021. This is when the food subsidy has reached to its peak. The second one happens to be is that, as you are already aware, see, Indian agriculture, we describe Indian agriculture is something called as the subsidy syndrome, suffering from a lot of fertilizers is, is subsidized highly, and moreover, the all the, be it urea, I mean, all the urea that is being produced is based on the natural gas, which 80% of the natural gas is imported. Now, this natural gas import was affected when the Russia invaded Ukraine. That happened in the year of 2022, that is Feb 2022. During that period, the prices of the natural gas in the international market has increased. As a result, what happens technically, the prices of all these fertilizer has increased in the international market. As a result of that, the fertilizer subsidy has, increased. Remember, the fertilizer subsidy bill has reached its peak during the financial year of 22-23, because this was the year in which Russia invaded the Ukraine. Can you see very clearly how the prices of the urea has declined? This is the present. Okay, you can also see the other one, something phosphoric acid and the ammonia, all that has declined from 1.75 as well as to, you can see. So as a result, remember, these are the two things that I want you to know this very clearly, because Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. So in that particular financial year, we see the steep increase in the fertilizers subsidy. The reason being the supply chains were affected. Since the COVID-19 lockdown, the phase of 2020 and 2021, and since the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana was continued till Jan 2023, so the food subsidy was always high. So now coming back to the question, we can see right now very clearly. Now, the total subsidy allocation of financial year is lowest since 29-20. That's absolutely correct. Let's say, even if you're not aware of 29-20, I mean, what was the exact figure? Now, can you see one thing very clearly? Question number 3. The fertilizer subsidy peaked in 2021 due to the high global prices following the Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This happens to be false. Reason being, very clearly that invasion took place in the year of 22. So straight away C and D will be false. So the only question we have before us is whether this statement number, can see because the choices that we have is only A or B. A or B are having two things in common, 1 and 2. So for sure 1 and 2 are absolutely correct. Look at here. The reduction in a subsidies is primarily due to discontinuation of additional free food grant, as I said very clearly under PDS, and a decrease in the fertilizer subsidy. Now the question comes here. In a relative terms, the subsidy bill of 25-26 is at a 1.19% of the GDP, lowest since the 2018 and 2019, which happens to be the absolutely correct. So the answer for this question is the B. So that's it in this particular video session. I'm telling this very clearly. You don't need to remember the exact set of a fertilizer bill and all, but you are supposed to be remember as a percentage of GDP in terms of the relative. I mean, all that becomes the very important. That's it in this particular video session. Thank you. Do like, do subscribe. If you have any concern, do ask in our comment section. Thank you.